Hey, Dave Parrish here at Knack Builders. I got a video, a little different one today, but here's the topic: how I approach user roles. User roles are a little complex, and as an aside, or how this sort of came up, there's a number of us professional Knack builders that are in a group, and we get together periodically and talk about all kinds of stuff. Sometimes folks from Knack are in there giving us the heads up on what's going on. Last week we had one of these Zoom meetings, I think it was, and got on the topic of user roles. We all agreed they can be a little weird. It's like walking a tightrope. But a couple really well-respected builders mentioned how they approach it, and it's completely different than how I approach it. I'm like, that's not how I do it, and a couple other, uh, again, very well-respected builders do it the exact opposite. And this has to do with how you use accounts versus the sub-accounts of the specific user roles. I'm going to jump into this, and I'll be right back. Thanks. Okay, let's just jump into the lowdown on how I approach user roles. And I mentioned there's another approach revolving around the user, the account itself. And I'm going to throw this in my fellow or request as my fellow YouTuber, Carl Holmes from the UK. He's an account guy. Why don't you do a video telling us how you approach it? Because I don't know what you do really at all. I just know what I do. And as an aside on this too, I don't remember, and I've been building for several years, I don't remember how I learned how to do this. I think it was trial and error. Knack does have a document on user roles, and it's pretty good. Tells you all the basics, though. Doesn't really get into all the weird situations you can run into, and it doesn't give different approaches. So I'm going to here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call up an app. Now, first thing I'm going to say this. Here's an app, but I'm going to go to my account, in my shared app. Okay, in my account, I think I have 100 and some, well over 100 apps. It's a lot of apps. Now, not all these have user roles. Most of them do. And some of them just have the one user role, which is a lot more straightforward. But when you're dealing with multiple user roles, these different approaches really come into play. I'm just going to show you what I do. Let me go to the app that's an example of this. Okay, this is here's the live app. It's for, I think, an NGO. They get money from the government. And what they do is recruit, this particular program recruits farmers from all over the U.S. And then they send the farmers to all these different countries in Africa, and they teach everything from marketing of a product to how to efficiently run a beekeeping operation to whatever, all different types of agriculture. These volunteer farmers go over there and teach it, and they have to report, since it's the government giving them money, they have to report on all kinds of things that they're doing. I won't get into the details of that app. Let's go to the builder. Please render here. Okay. This stuff for this conversation doesn't matter whatsoever. Here's how I approach it. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Zoom in. I'll do it once more. Zoom in. Accounts. Now we have three different types of user roles. One, there's a volunteer that can go to the website of this organization, say, hey, I want to volunteer, create an account, and start answering a bunch of questions about themselves. Now they're available to be selected by another part of the organization. Headquarters is in Washington, D.C. These are the people that can see everything and do everything. Field offices are in Mali, are in Zimbabwe, all over a bunch of different countries in Africa where they're deploying this thing out to. And field offices just see their stuff. Typical type of thing. This could be salesperson, sales manager, admin, right? It's all the same deal. Now, for accounts, for all those apps I've done, I've never once had anything other than the standard fields that come with this. It's just sort of the backbone of something that's related to these. I put variable information, and this volunteer is a really good example. The volunteer, they have their regular stuff, the name, the password, the status, that sort of stuff. But now if you're the volunteer, there's a bunch of information we collect from them. I won't go into all the other stuff, but you can see that they're answering a ton of different stuff about that. It's only for the volunteer. I'm not sure how you do that if you put it in accounts. If you had everything centered around accounts, I guess if different user roles, first of all, you might have something that says type of account and it could be named these user roles. I'm not sure. I'm not going to get into trying to speculate how the account approach works. More so, I'll just go into detail of how this works. But you could have a whole bunch of variable information that's about these and only use that when it's appropriate. Field office, I have all the boilerplate stuff. The field office, by its nature, has to be connected to a country. So when you're creating a view, you say only show records related to the logged in user's country. And then it does that for you. Now, I do this a number of times. If it's like even admin, I'll do it too. I have something here that says what they can see. In this case, we have, here, this is in a quick aside. This could be another video for builders. I did this, and this particular builder likes to go in and do things on their own. I can tell right away they did this, and I haven't heard from it yet. They have and passport and passport. This and passport doesn't have a space in front of it. This one does. This medical has a space. I did not do that. Guarantee you I didn't do that. But I'm going to go back to my point here. I often have something, what they can see or the level of permission. So I don't have to, some of the admins we don't want them to do certain things that are like a full-fledged. I don't have to create a whole nother user around there. I just limit to have a field that is a yes or no or whatever. And then when they try to access a page that they don't have access to, the same admin that all of them, that the full admin can has access to, but they try to, based on the page rule, it could hide it, or a message says you don't have access to this financial information, or you don't have access to social security number, that type of thing. Regardless, that's how I handle that. And this headquarters one is quite the same. Now there's and lots of these have different variable information. This one just happens to have a little bit. The point is, I put variable information here, not in accounts. And you go to the pages, this is how I always do these. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to say one thing here. I made myself, as a builder, multiple user roles. Don't worry about this library and this indicator things. These are a little different. Put them off the side. 3 user roles: field office, volunteer, HQ. I made myself multiple user roles. It's sort of a unrealistic state, but when you're building, I like to be able to toggle back and forth and see what's going on instead of having to log in and out or have multiple different browsers open with sessions going. Now, when you do that, this can come into play a number of ways. I don't know what I'm talking about. When you're doing page rules or filtering or a number of things, and you say, this is this user role, well, you might have changed that to this contains. But that's a whole nother topic too. So how I build it out, again, this library indicator stuff, don't worry about these. Every user role, or the pages side, is grouped completely around their user role. Field office, all the content for the field office is here, here, and here, here. Sometimes I create special pages where they can share content, like a detail page or something, and I did another video on that. So you don't have to remake everything. There's lots of efficient ways to do that. And again, I'm not going to get into it. Also, volunteer, this has all the volunteer stuff, just volunteer, and same with the HQ. Now, a couple of things that can get a little weird here too, I want to mention. There's probably a lot more. I'm going to mention a couple. One, if you do want people, there's a lot of use cases where you might want them to be more than one user role, and how I approach it here. And usually if you just go to that section, you have a manage user section, you'll go to, you want them to be a new user role. You go to that user role, you try to add them. It's going to say, hey, this person already exists. You can't add them. And you have to have a process for that. What you have to do is go where they are originally. Let's say they were a field office originally, and you want to be a headquarter also. You'd have to go to your managed users, go to the field office, and then be able to select user roles and then add this to that. That always is a little confusing to me. I haven't found a super smooth process for it, and it's a little more confusing to my clients, but we work it out. Now, something that Julian brought up the other day, I've never run into, but it's a really good point, and I don't have a good answer. What if someone was a field or a volunteer, let's just say this, and they somehow became a field office? They were hired, and now they're field office. And here's the point. If they change roles and you want them to still use the same email address, that example I gave may not apply to that. If you change their role because they moved on to something else, you don't want to get rid of them where they were originally, because you'll lose a bunch of historic stuff about them. Any place they were associated with an activity, or they were time stamped and captured who did an action. I've never run into that being a problem. I'm probably lucky because it seems like that could happen. And the way Julian talked about it, he's got a solution for that. But I'll move on. Or that's about all I got, actually. If you like this, I appreciate it. Thanks.